We have obtained leaked information from a confidential source that changes absolutely everything we thought we knew about Roloff Farms. If you thought the feud between Matt, Zach, and Jeremy was just about money or negotiation tactics, you have been watching the wrong show. We have uncovered details regarding what insiders are calling Matt Roloff's Doomsday Will, a secret legal maneuver that reportedly bypasses Zach, Jeremy, Molly, and Jacob entirely, handing 100% of the remaining farm assets to Caryn Chandler upon his passing. This isn't just a rumor. We are talking about alleged documents that suggest a deliberate, calculated move to erase the Roloff legacy for the children and hand the keys to the kingdom to the woman who replaced their mother. The betrayal is deeper than we ever imagined, and the evidence points to a plan that has been in motion for years, hidden behind the smiles and the reality TV cameras. Before we dive deep into the specific clauses of this shocking document and the alleged involvement of Jacob Roloff as the unlikely whistleblower, I need you to take 1 second right now to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We are taking a massive risk bringing this information to light, and we need the algorithm to push this truth out to every single Little People, Big World fan. If you are Team Amy or if you think the kids have been robbed, subscribe right now and comment the truth down below so we know you are with us. Now, let's peel back the layers of this deception. For the last several seasons, the narrative fed to us by TLC and Matt Roloff was simple. Matt wanted to retire. The farm was too much work, and the kids were simply too entitled or not financially ready to take over. We watched the heartbreaking scenes of Zach walking away, of Jeremy and Audrey moving their dreams elsewhere. We watched Matt sit in his office, looking forlorn, telling the cameras that he tried his best, but the deal just couldn't happen. It was a masterclass in manipulation. According to our new information, that entire negotiation process was a smokescreen. The theory we are investigating today suggests that Matt never intended to sell the farm to the boys. The price tag was allegedly inflated on purpose, set to an impossible number that he knew Zach and Jeremy couldn't meet, specifically to create a public justification for what he had already done in private. Let's talk about the timeline. We are looking at reports of a notarized amendment to Matt's estate planning that dates back to just 3 days after that disastrous negotiation meeting with Zach, the one where the cameras caught the tension but missed the aftermath. While Zach was packing up his family and moving to Battleground, Washington, completely heartbroken, Matt was reportedly in a lawyer's office. But he wasn't looking for a way to fix things. The alleged document explicitly names Caryn Chandler not just as a beneficiary, but as the sole executor and beneficiary of the liquid assets and the remaining farm property. The justification cited in the legal language allegedly points to the children's lack of interest and their establishment of independent lives as the reason for their removal from the primary inheritance. This legal phrasing is crucial because it protects the will from being easily contested later. By claiming the children refuse the farm, Matt creates a legal shield for Caryn. This completely reframes the foundational lie of the last 5 years. All that talk about a legacy for the grandchildren, all those scenes of Matt building the play cabin and saying he wants Jackson and Lila to run through the fields, it was performative. If this document is real, the legacy isn't going to Jackson, it's going to Caryn's estate. It means that when Matt passes, the decision of what happens to the land, the big house, and the rental properties will not sit with the Roloff bloodline. It will sit with Caryn. And knowing how strained her relationship is with the kids, do we really think she is going to hand it over out of the goodness of her heart? We have to look at the overlooked protagonist in this saga, Jacob Roloff. For years, Jacob has been the rebel, the one who stepped away from the cameras, the one who called out the fakeness of the production. But recently, he has been back on the farm, working side by side with his dad. Many viewers thought this was a reconciliation, They thought Jacob was finally drinking the Kool-Aid. But insiders suggest a much more complex dynamic. Jacob is smart, he is observant, and unlike his brothers, he has access to the physical office where the business is run. The narrative we are hearing is that Jacob, while helping with maintenance and office organization, noticed inconsistencies in the filing cabinets. He noticed that certain folders were moved and certain meetings were happening with estate attorneys that didn't match the farm sale timeline. The rumor is that Jacob didn't speak up on the show because he is under a strict NDA, but that he allegedly took photos of the documents he found. These photos are what sparked the panic behind the scenes. It explains why Jacob's mood has seemed darker in recent social media posts and why his relationship with Caryn seems cordial on the surface but icy underneath. He knows that he is working on land that has already been signed away. Imagine the psychological toll of helping your father plant pumpkins and fix barns, knowing that the paper in the safe says none of this belongs to you or your future children. It belongs to the girlfriend. This brings us to the most sinister aspect of this conspiracy, the betrayal. We have to talk about Caryn's role. For years, Caryn has played the part of the mediator. She sits in the confessional chair, tilts her head, and says, "I just want Matt and the kids to get along." Or, "I'm staying out of it. It's Matt's decision." Looking back at those clips now, with the knowledge of this potential secret will, her behavior takes on a chilling quality. It looks less like neutrality and more like the confidence of someone who has already won the game. She doesn't need to fight with Amy. She doesn't need to argue with Zach. She doesn't need to push for the sale publicly. Why would she? She has the golden ticket signed, sealed, and delivered. There is a specific scene from 2 seasons ago where Matt is discussing the potential sale to an outsider, and Caryn is nodding along, looking concerned. At the time, we thought she was worried about Matt's health. Now, it looks like she was worried about the asset being liquidated before she could inherit it. If Matt sells the farm for cash, that cash can be spent, it can be divided, it can be lost. But if he holds on to the land until the end and leaves it to her in a trust or a will, she gets the empire. This theory explains why Caryn was reportedly so relieved when the farm didn't sell to the public market and transitioned into a short-term rental business. The rental business keeps the asset in Matt's name, it keeps the equity growing, and it keeps it ready for the transfer of power. The implications for Amy Roloff are massive. Amy sold her half of the farm, thinking she was facilitating a future for her kids. She took a buyout, likely under the assumption that Matt would eventually pass the torch to the boys. If she had any idea that Matt was going to disinherit the boys and give her half of the dream to Caryn, she would have burned that farmhouse to the ground before signing the deed. This is why we are hearing reports that Amy's legal team is looking into this. There is talk of an injunction based on undue influence. This is a legal concept used when a person in a position of power, like a caregiver or a romantic partner, manipulates someone who is medically vulnerable into changing their will. Think about Matt's health. He has had multiple surgeries. He is constantly in pain. He relies on Caryn for a lot of his daily management and care. This creates a dependency. The argument could be made that Matt was not in a completely independent state of mind when these changes were made. If Caryn was whispering in his ear, telling him the kids were ungrateful, telling him that Zach was disrespectful, telling him that only she truly cared for him, that constitutes influence. And if that influence resulted in a notary stamp that cut out his biological children, we are looking at a legal battle that will make the farm sale negotiation look like a picnic. We also have to consider the emotional manipulation regarding the ungrateful narrative. Matt has spent the last few years painting himself as the victim. He tells anyone who will listen that the kids are entitled. He says they don't understand business. He says they wanted a handout. This narrative serves a very specific legal purpose. In estate law, if you want to disinherit a child, it helps to have a documented reason. By going on national television and creating a record of his children's alleged laziness or stubbornness, Matt is effectively building the case for his own will. He is creating the evidence that justifies the Doomsday Will. It's gaslighting on a global scale. He provokes the kids into a reaction, captures that reaction on camera, and then uses it to say, "See, this is why I can't leave them on the farm." Let's go back to that meeting with Zach. We all remember the tension, but let's analyze what actually broke the deal. Zach claimed that Matt's valuation of the farm was absurdly high. Matt claimed he was giving a family discount. Real estate experts who have looked at the property in that area have suggested that Matt's price was indeed at the very top of the market, hardly a family gift. Why would he do that? Why would a father who claims to want a legacy price his own son out of the market? Because he didn't want to sell. He needed to make the offer to say he tried, but he needed the offer to fail so he could proceed with the secret will plan. If Zach had somehow come up with the money, Matt would have been cornered. He would have lost the asset. By setting the price too high, he ensured he kept the land, kept the control, and kept the ability to pass it to Caryn. And where does this leave Jeremy and Audrey? They have been very quiet about the farm recently, focusing entirely on their own massive renovation project. For a while, fans thought they were just moving on. But this new theory suggests they found out. Jeremy and Zach have had their differences, but nothing unites siblings like a common enemy. If Jacob shared those photos of the documents with his brothers, it would explain the sudden, unified distance the children have taken from Matt. They aren't just busy, they are disgusted. They are watching their father parade his relationship with Caryn, knowing that she is the one who will be cashing in on their childhood memories. We also need to talk about the silence from the network. TLC usually loves this kind of drama. They thrive on fighting, but this is too dark even for reality TV. This is about death, inheritance, and legal fraud. It's possible the network is protecting Matt, or perhaps they are legally prohibited from filming discussions about the active estate planning due to the potential lawsuits. This is why you won't see this on the show. You will only see the sanitized version where Matt complains about a tractor breaking down. You won't see the scene where he signs the paper that ends the Roloff dynasty. That is why channels like ours are so important. We connect the dots that the producers are trying to erase. The financial breakdown of the estate is also worth noting. We aren't just talking about the pumpkin patch. We are talking about the rights to the name, the merchandise, the rental income, and the land value, which has skyrocketed in Oregon. If Caryn inherits 100%, she becomes a multimillionaire instantly. And what happens to the grandkids? Jackson, Ember, Lila, Bode, Radley. They get nothing unless Caryn decides to be generous, and based on the way she has carefully positioned herself between Matt and his kids, betting on her generosity seems like a losing gamble. This brings us to the concept of the life estate. Some apologists for Matt might say, maybe he left Caryn a life estate, meaning she can live there until she dies, and then it goes to the kids. That is a common arrangement, but the leaked details we are discussing do not mention a life estate. They mention sole beneficiary. That distinction is critical. A beneficiary owns it, they can sell it, they can mortgage it, they can leave it to their own children. Yes, that means the Roloff farm could eventually be inherited by Caryn's children, not Matt's. Imagine the irony. The land that Amy and Matt built, that the Roloff kids grew up on, ending up in the hands of Caryn's family, while the Roloffs are locked out of the gate. This is the nightmare scenario that keeps Amy up at night. And it explains why Amy has been so vocal recently about moving on in toxic energy. She realizes that the battle is rigged. She realizes that as long as Caryn has her claws in Matt, The logic and fairness that used to govern the family are gone. Amy isn't just bitter, she is terrified for her children's future. She sees the writing on the wall, or rather the writing on the will. We also have to analyze the psychology of Matt Roloff. Throughout the series, Matt has always been the dreamer, the guy with the big ideas, but he has also been the dictator. He wants things done his way or no way. As he gets older and as his physical limitations increase, his desire for control hasn't gone away. It has just shifted. He can't control his body, so he controls his money, he controls his legacy. Holding the inheritance over his children's heads is the ultimate power move. It forces them to come to him. It forces them to play nice. If they speak out, he can simply point to the document and say, "You're out." It's financial abuse masquerading as estate planning. And Caryn is the perfect accomplice. She feeds his ego. She tells him he is right. She validates his feelings of being abandoned by his kids. Every time the kids set a boundary, Caryn is there to say, "Wow, I can't believe they treated you like that." She widens the wedge. She pours gasoline on the fire. And why wouldn't she? Every bridge Matt burns with his children is a bridge he builds toward her bank account. It is a zero-sum game. For Caryn to win, the kids have to lose. And right now, the score is Caryn. Everything, kids, 0. The leaked information also touches upon a no contest clause. This is a standard but aggressive tactic in wills. It basically says that if any beneficiary tries to challenge the validity of the will in court, they are automatically disinherited from whatever small amount they might have been left. This puts the kids in a bind. If Matt leaves them a token amount, say $10,000 each, and they try to sue for the farm, they risk losing the $10,000. It's a way to silence them from the grave. It traps them. It forces them to accept the injustice or risk everything in a legal battle that could take years and cost millions. This is the reality of the situation. The show is a distraction. The pumpkins are a distraction. The real story is happening in the lawyers' offices in downtown Portland. The real story is the systematic removal of the Roloff children from their birthright. And the person holding the pen is Matt, but the person guiding his hand is Caryn. We need to talk about the silence. In the world of reality television, silence is usually a sign of a contract. And in the case of the Roloff family, the deafening silence from the children regarding the specifics of the estate tells us more than any screaming match ever could. Our sources indicate that this Doomsday Will is wrapped in layers of non-disclosure agreements that Matt has allegedly coerced the family into signing under the guise of protecting the brand. Think about it. Why haven't Jeremy or Zach gone to the press with the full story? Why do they drop subtle hints on podcasts or make passive-aggressive Instagram captions instead of just saying it outright? The theory is that they are legally gagged. Matt knows that if the full text of this secret will were to be published while the show is still on the air, the fan base would revolt. He needs the viewers to stay in the gray area. He needs you to think there is still hope for a reconciliation. But the legal documents we are hearing about suggest the door isn't just closed, it has been bricked over. Let's dig deeper into the mechanism of this takeover. It is not just about the final will and testament. It is about the medical power of attorney. This is a critical piece of the puzzle that often gets overlooked. We have received reports that alongside the estate amendments, Matt has updated his advance directives to name Caryn as the sole decision maker for his health and incapacitated state. On the surface, this makes sense. She is his partner. But look at the implications through the lens of the secret will conspiracy. If Matt were to fall into a coma or suffer a severe medical event, which, given his medical history, is a very real possibility, Caryn would have absolute control over who enters the room. She could legally bar Amy, Zach, Jeremy, Molly, and Jacob from his bedside. She could control the flow of information. She could prevent any last-minute changes to the estate plan that Matt might want to make in a moment of clarity. By holding the medical power of attorney, Caryn essentially holds the keys to the end game. She becomes the gatekeeper of Matt's consciousness. This explains the genuine fear we see in Amy's eyes during those awkward sit-downs. Amy knows that if something happens to Matt, the father of her children becomes the property of Caryn Chandler. This brings us to the Arizona connection. While everyone is focused on the farm in Oregon, our insiders are telling us to look south. Matt and Caryn have been spending an increasing amount of time in Surprise, Arizona. They bought a home there. They have built a life there. Why does this matter for the will? Because estate laws vary from state to state. There is a growing theory among legal experts observing the case that Matt might be moving his primary domicile to Arizona to take advantage of different inheritance laws or to complicate any potential challenge from the kids in Oregon courts. If he declares Arizona his primary residence, and if the assets are held in a trust administered under Arizona law, it creates a jurisdictional nightmare for Zach and Jeremy if they ever try to sue. It forces them to fight a battle in a state they don't live in, under laws they don't understand. It's a strategic geographical chess move. It suggests that Matt isn't just hiding from his kids emotionally, he is hiding from them jurisdictionally. And who loves Arizona? Who pushed for the purchase of that home? Caryn. She is slowly moving the center of gravity away from the land where the Roloff kids have roots to a neutral territory where she has total control. We also have to re-examine the history of Caryn's employment. We can't forget that before she was the girlfriend, she was the farm manager. She saw the books. She saw the profit margins. She saw the debts. She knew exactly how much that land was worth down to the penny before she ever started a romantic relationship with Matt. This is what fuels the long con theory. Did Caryn see an opportunity years ago? Did she see a tired, physically vulnerable man sitting on a gold mine and realize that with a little patience, she could go from employee to owner? The secret will is the culmination of a decade-long plan. When she was managing the pumpkin season, she wasn't just organizing the parking lot, she was organizing her future. She learned the business better than the kids did. She made herself indispensable. And now, Matt can't run the farm without her. He literally cannot function without her assistance. That dependency is the leverage she used to allegedly secure her spot as the sole beneficiary. It's a classic case of the servant becoming the master, but played out on a reality TV stage. Now, let's talk about the short-term rental pivot. When Matt announced he was turning the big house into a rental, he spun it as a savvy business move. He said it was a way to share the farm with the world. But let's look at the timing. This announcement came immediately after the negotiations with Zach fell apart. Why turn it into a rental instead of just lowering the price for his son? Because turning it into a business asset locks the value. It generates cash flow that can be siphoned off into accounts that Caryn likely has access to. But more importantly, it changes the classification of the property. It's no longer a family home that carries sentimental weight. It is a commercial entity. This psychological shift helps justify the disinheritance. Matt can tell himself, I'm not keeping the kids out of their childhood home. I'm just managing a commercial asset. It allows him to compartmentalize the betrayal. It also creates a situation where, if he passes away, Caryn inherits a turnkey business. She doesn't inherit a house she has to sell. She inherits a money printing machine that is already up and running. She doesn't have to lift a finger. The maids clean it, the management company books it, and the checks go into the trust. It was the perfect bridge to ensure the asset remained liquid and profitable for her, specifically. We also need to discuss the role of Chris Marek. Initially, fans were suspicious of Chris, but lately, he has become a strange sort of ally to the kids. We have heard rumors that Chris being a real estate agent himself, has smelled a rat for a long time. There are whispers that Chris has reviewed the public records regarding the farm's zoning and recent filings and has pointed out inconsistencies to Amy. Chris knows the market. He knows that the deal Matt offered Zach was bad. He knows that the restrictions Matt claimed prevented the sale were likely exaggerated. Chris might be the unsung hero in this narrative, the one whispering in Amy's ear that she needs to lawyer up, not for herself, but for her children. If Chris is advising Amy to challenge the estate planning, that puts him directly in Caryn's crosshairs. It explains the awkward tension we see between Chris and Caryn. It's not just about their spouse's past, it's about the fact that Chris sees through Caryn's act. He knows a shark when he sees one because he works in real estate. He recognizes the tactics of a hostile takeover. Let's go back to the ungrateful narrative because this is the psychological weapon Matt uses most effectively. There is a specific leaked detail about a confrontation that happened off camera, allegedly witnessed by a production assistant who was later fired. The story goes that during a break in filming, Zach confronted Matt about the maintenance of the farm, pointing out that the property was deteriorating in areas the cameras didn't see. Matt reportedly exploded, screaming that Zach had no right to criticize the empire he built. But here's the kicker. Caryn reportedly stepped in, not to calm Matt down, but to hand him his phone and say, "Call the lawyer." This moment, if true, is the smoking gun. It shows that the legal threat is always on the table. It shows that Caryn weaponizes Matt's anger. Instead of de-escalating a father-son fight, she escalated it to a legal threat. She wants Matt angry. She wants him to feel underappreciated. 'Cause an angry, isolated Matt is a Matt who signs the Doomsday Will. We must also consider the statue syndrome. Matt has been obsessed with building structures. The castle, the ark, the western town. These are monuments to himself. Psychologists who analyze the show have pointed out that Matt displays classic narcissistic traits. He views the farm not as a home, but as an extension of his ego. To hand it over to Zach or Jeremy would be to admit that his reign is over. It would be to admit that he is replaceable. But handing it to Caryn, that feels different to him. In his mind, Caryn is his subordinate, his helper, his extension. Giving it to her feels like keeping it for himself. Giving it to the kids feels like losing. This is the twisted logic that allows him to justify cutting out his own blood. He sees the kids as competitors. He sees Zach not as a son, but as a rival who is trying to take his crown. And you don't leave your kingdom to your rival. You leave it to your loyal consort. This is Game of Thrones in a pumpkin patch. And what about the grandchildren? This is the most heartbreaking part of the conspiracy. Matt loves to post photos with Jackson and Lila. He loves the grandpa image, but the leaked documents allegedly contain clauses that put the grandchildren's inheritance in trust funds that are, you guessed it, managed by Caryn. The theory is that Matt has set it up so that if the kids want access to money for college or weddings or first homes, they will have to go through Caryn to get it. Imagine the power dynamic. 20 years from now, Jackson Roloff wants to go to college. He doesn't go to his dad for the money. He has to go to his grandfather's girlfriend, the woman who took the farm from his father and asked for a check. It is the ultimate control from the grave. It ensures that Caryn remains the matriarch of the family long after Matt is gone. The Roloff descendants will have to kiss the ring of Caryn Chandler if they want a dime of the family fortune. It is diabolical. Let's look at the clues in Jeremy and Audrey's behavior. They have completely pivoted their brand. They talk about building their own legacy. They talk about breaking generational trauma. These aren't just buzzwords. These are direct shots at Matt. When Audrey posts about the importance of a healthy marriage and honest communication, she is subposting about Matt and Caryn. They know they have been disinherited. They have accepted it. And they are using their own platform to build a narrative that says, we don't need his money. But deep down, the betrayal stings. You can see it in Jeremy's face when he visits the farm. He looks like a ghost haunting his own childhood. He walks through the western town he helped build, knowing that it now belongs to a trust controlled by a woman who mocked his mother. The pain is visceral. There is also the valuation mystery. Matt claimed the farm was worth $4 million. Then he listed it for $4 million. It didn't sell. He dropped the price. It still didn't sell. The market spoke. The farm was overpriced. But Matt refused to lower it to a price Zach could afford. Why? Because the high valuation is essential for the secret will. If the farm is valued at $4 million on paper, Matt can claim he is leaving Caryn a $4 million asset. It boosts the value of his estate on paper. If he sells it to Zach for $2 million, he admits the empire has shrunk. He admits failure. He would rather hold on to an overpriced, unsold asset and give it to Caryn than sell it at a fair market value to his son. It's about vanity. It's about the number on the balance sheet. He wants to die a rich man on paper, even if that wealth is illiquid and the cost is his family. The insider source also mentioned a safe. Apparently, in Matt's office, there is a large, fireproof safe that only he and Caryn have the combination to. This is where the physical copy of the Doomsday Will is allegedly kept. Jacob, during his time working on the property, reportedly saw Caryn opening the safe. The look on her face, described by the source, was one of pure possession. She wasn't just retrieving a document. She was checking on her prize. This safe has become a symbol of the secrets rotting at the core of the family. The kids know it's there, they know what's inside, but they can't touch it. We also have to talk about the non-disparagement clauses. It is highly likely that Matt has attached strings to any small gifts he gives the kids now. Here is a check for the grandkids, but you have to sign this paper saying you won't talk about Caryn in the press. This is how he buys their silence. He drips just enough money to keep them quiet, but not enough to give them independence. It keeps them on the hook. It explains why Zach and Tori are still somewhat in orbit. Despite the toxicity, they are likely trying to preserve whatever small scraps of inheritance are left for their children, navigating a minefield where one wrong word could cost them everything. Furthermore, consider the legacy of the show itself. The show is the only reason the farm is worth anything. Without the cameras, it's just a farm in Hillsboro, Oregon, with some weird structures. Matt knows this. Caryn knows this. They are milking the show for every last season to pump up the cash reserves before the inevitable end. The secret will likely includes the rights to the Roloff Farms trademark. This means that even after Matt dies, Caryn could continue to sell salsa, sell t-shirts, and run the pumpkin patch using the Roloff name. She could literally be selling merchandise with the name of the family she destroyed. The monetization of the Roloff name by a non-Roloff is the ultimate insult. It's identity theft on a corporate level. As we peel back these layers, the picture becomes clearer and darker. This isn't just a dispute about land. It is a coup. It is a hostile takeover engineered by a woman who saw an opening and took it, and a man who was too proud and too bitter to stop her. The secret will is real. The betrayal is real. And as we move into the final part of this investigation, we are going to look at what happens next. What is the legal nuclear option Amy is holding? What happens when the cameras finally turn off? And could there be a counter will, a document from the past that could undo everything Caryn has worked for? We are seeing a war of attrition. Caryn is betting that she can outlast the kids. She is betting that they will get tired, move on, and give up. She is counting on their exhaustion. But she underestimates the power of the truth, and she underestimates the resolve of a family scorned. The Roloff kids are waking up. Amy is waking up. And the fans are waking up. The Doomsday Will might be signed, but the execution of it is far from guaranteed. The timeline of the notary is also suspicious. We found out that the notary used for these alleged documents is a personal friend of Caryn's from her previous life before the farm. This raises huge conflict of interest flags. If the notary was biased, if the witnesses were handpicked by Caryn, the entire will could be challenged on technical grounds. This is the thread that Amy's lawyers are pulling on. If they can prove that the witnesses were compromised, the whole house of cards comes down. Matt thinks he has created an ironclad fortress, but he may have built it on quicksand. There is also the matter of life insurance. We are hearing reports that Matt has taken out massive policies, with the premiums paid by the farm business accounts. Guess who the beneficiary is? It's not the kids who cover estate taxes. It's Caryn. This cash injection upon his death would give her the war chest she needs to fight any legal battles the kids launch. It's a defense fund pre-funded by the very business the kids helped build. Every pumpkin sold contributes to the fund that will be used to fight the kids in court. Let that sink in. When you visit the farm, when you buy a ticket, you are inadvertently funding Caryn's legal team. As we prepare to expose the final pieces of this puzzle, ask yourself, why is Matt so afraid of his own children? Why does he need a barrier of lawyers and girlfriend managers between him and his sons? Because he knows he is wrong. He knows he has broken the covenant of fatherhood. He knows that in the court of public opinion, he has already lost. And the secret will is his attempt to win the only way he knows how, by buying the victory. We have arrived at the final, most explosive chapter of this investigation. And this is where the theory shifts from a story about a family feud into a full-blown legal thriller. We have talked about betrayal, secret documents, and manipulation, but now we need to talk about the counterattack. Sources close to the family are whispering about what they call the nuclear option. This is the strategy Amy Roloff has kept in her back pocket for years, waiting for the moment when Matt crosses the line of no return. With the discovery of the alleged Doomsday Will and the total disinheritance of the children, that line has been crossed. The rumor is that Amy possesses a specific piece of evidence, a document from the original divorce proceedings that was never made public. This document allegedly outlines a binding agreement that the farm was to be held in a constructive trust for the 4 children. If this document exists, it invalidates everything Matt has done with Caryn. A constructive trust is a legal concept that basically says, even if the title is in Matt's name, the beneficial interest belongs to the kids based on promises made during the divorce. Amy settled for a buyout based on the verbal and written assurance that the remaining land would stay in the Roloff bloodline. If Matt has signed that land over to Caryn, he has committed fraud against the divorce settlement. This is the leverage Amy has. This is why she looks so confident in recent photos. She knows that if she takes this to a judge, she can freeze Matt's assets instantly. She can lock the farm down so tight that Caryn won't be able to sell a single pumpkin without a court order. We also have to consider the lost tapes theory. We are talking about nearly 2 decades of filming, thousands of hours of footage. Only a fraction makes it to air. We have heard reports from former crew members that there exists raw footage of Matt explicitly promising the farm to the boys. Promises made on camera, on microphone, in front of witnesses. These lost tapes are reportedly being sought after by the Roloff Children's Legal Counsel. If they can subpoena the raw footage from TLC, they have video evidence of a verbal contract. In the state of Oregon, under certain conditions, a verbal contract regarding land can be enforced if the other party acted on it, like Jeremy and Zach working for years at below market rates because they were earning sweat equity. The footage proves the contract. Matt can rewrite his will all he wants, but he cannot rewrite history when it is recorded in high definition. Let's project this forward. What is Caryn's actual endgame? We have analyzed the secret will, but we haven't analyzed the exit strategy. The prevailing theory among our insider community is that Caryn has no intention of running the farm after Matt passes. She is not a farmer. She doesn't want to wake up at 4 a.m. to deal with mud and tractors. Her plan, allegedly, is the quick flip. The moment she inherits the title, the for sale sign goes up, but not for a family to live there. We are hearing that she has already had preliminary, off-the-record conversations with commercial developers. The zoning laws in that part of Oregon are strict, but they are changing. Developers are hungry for that land to build luxury condos or a subdivision. Imagine the horror. The land where the kids played, the fields where they learned to drive, the castle, the pirate ship, all of it bulldozed to make way for the Roloff Estates condo complex. And the proceeds? Millions of dollars funneling directly into Caryn's pocket, while she retires to Arizona to live in luxury. This is the ultimate betrayal of the little people, big world legacy. It isn't just stealing the inheritance. It is erasing the history. It is taking the physical manifestation of the Roloff family's hard work and turning it into a pile of cash for a stranger. This is the scenario that Zach and Jeremy are reportedly losing sleep over. It's not just about the money, it's about the erasure of their childhood. There is also the Jacob factor to resolve. We mentioned he found the documents, but what is he doing with that information? The latest intel suggests Jacob is writing a tell-all book, but unlike the vague philosophical books he has written in the past, this one is a detailed expose of the farm's finances and the family dynamic. The rumor is that he is holding the manuscript as a bargaining chip. He is telling Matt, "Fix the will or I publish." This explains why Matt has been strangely nice to Jacob publicly, praising him on Instagram, trying to keep him close. Matt is terrified of what Jacob knows. Jacob is the wild card. He has no NDA that covers illegal activity or fraud, and if he frames his book as a whistleblower account, Matt can't stop him. Jacob is the one holding the match, and Matt is standing in a pool of gasoline. We must also address the silence of the other spouses. Tori and Audrey. These two women have had their own feuds, but nothing unites mothers like a threat to their children's future. We are hearing that Tori and Audrey have formed a secret alliance. They are the ones pushing their husbands to fight. They are the ones documenting every snub, every unfair comment, every instance of Caryn overstepping her bounds. They are building a dossier. When the time comes for the legal battle, likely immediately after Matt's passing or if his health declines significantly, these two women will be the star witnesses. They will testify to the alienation. They will testify to the promises made to the grandkids. They are the keepers of the emotional receipts. The charity angle is another smokescreen we need to debunk. Matt has often talked about leaving money to charity. It makes him sound noble, but look closely at the secret will details. The charity listed is often a private family foundation, and who sits on the board of directors of this proposed foundation? Caryn Chandler. This is a classic wealthy tax dodge tactic. You leave your money to a charity you control, so you don't pay estate taxes, but you still control the money. You can pay yourself a salary to run the charity. You can hire your friends. It's a way to disinherit the IRS and the kids at the same time while pretending to be a philanthropist. If the Doomsday Will sets up the Matt Roloff Foundation with Caryn as the president, it means she gets a salary for life from the farm assets, and the kids get a pamphlet. Now let's look at the audience. You. Why does this conspiracy matter? Because for 25 seasons, we invested in this family. We bought pumpkins. We watched the weddings. We felt like we were part of the Roloff story. If this ends with the girlfriend stealing the fortune and the kids being left with nothing, it is a betrayal of the audience too. We were sold a story about a family overcoming odds, about love and legacy. If the real story is just greed and manipulation, then we were conned. Matt Roloff didn't just fool his kids, he fooled millions of viewers. He used our attention to build an empire, and now he is locking the gates. But there is a glimmer of hope. The undue influence case is strong. In Oregon law, if a beneficiary was in a confidential relationship with the testator, Matt, and participated in the drafting of the will, there is a presumption of undue influence. Caryn fits this description perfectly. She was his employee. She is his caregiver. She drives him to the lawyer. She sits in on the meetings. A sharp lawyer, and Amy has hired the best, can rip this will to shreds in court. They can argue that Matt, in his weakened physical state and dependent on Caryn for mobility and care, was not acting of his own free will. They can argue that Caryn acted as the puppet master. If the court agrees, the Doomsday Will is thrown out. And if the will is thrown out, what happens? The estate reverts to the previous will, the will from before Caryn, the will that likely splits everything equally among the 4 kids. This is the victory scenario. This is what the Team Amy movement is fighting for. It is a return to the original covenant. It means the farm goes to Zach, Jeremy, Molly, and Jacob. It means they can decide what to do with it, maybe keep it, maybe sell it, but they decide together as a family. It cuts Caryn out of the picture completely. She would walk away with nothing but her TLC paycheck. This is the ending the fans want. This is the ending justice demands. However, Matt is stubborn. He is a fighter. He knows a legal battle is coming, and he is digging in. We are seeing him liquidate assets now to turn them into cash that is harder to trace. The sale of rental property, the selling of old farm equipment, this is cash hoarding. He is trying to make the estate as liquid as possible so that Caryn can grab the money and run before the courts can freeze it. It is a race against time. Every day the farm sits unsold is a win for the kids. Every dollar Matt converts to cash is a win for Caryn. The psychological toll on Matt shouldn't be ignored either. Recent photos show him looking tired, aged, and stressed. Carrying a secret this big weighs on a person. He is isolated. His kids don't visit like they used to. His grandkids are growing up without him. He is sitting in that big house, surrounded by projects and employees, but he is fundamentally alone. Caryn is there, yes, but is she there for him or for the finish line? That doubt has to be eating him alive. Deep down, Matt Roloff is a smart man. He has to know, he has to suspect that if the bank account hit 0 tomorrow, Caryn would be gone. And that fear, the fear that his love is conditional on his assets, is the prison he has built for himself. As we conclude this deep dive, the narrative is clear. The secret will is not just a document. It is a weapon. It is the final blow in a war that has destroyed one of reality TV's most beloved families. But the war isn't over. The leaked documents have given the kids the heads up they needed. The surprise attack failed because we found out, because Jacob found out. Now they have time to prepare. They are gathering their evidence. They are lining up their witnesses. They are ready to fight for their birthright. So where do you stand? This is the most important question. Are you watching a man exercise his right to do what he wants with his property? Or are you watching a tragedy of manipulation where a father is being tricked into destroying his own legacy? The evidence we have presented, the secret meetings, the notary connections, the unequal valuations, the Arizona trust, the silence of the kids, all points to one conclusion: the fix is in. We will continue to monitor this situation day by day. Our source inside the estate attorney's office has promised more updates as the amendments are finalized. We are expecting a leak of the audio recordings from the negotiation meeting soon. When that drops, we will have another video up immediately. You cannot afford to miss that. If you believe the Roloff kids deserve the farm, you need to share this video. Post it on Facebook, post it on Reddit, tweet it to TLC. Let them know that we see what is happening. Let Matt know that the world is watching. Light is the best disinfectant, and we just turned on the floodlights. Hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications. We are the only channel brave enough to tell you the ugly truth about Roloff Farms. This isn't just reality TV gossip. This is about justice. Thank you for watching. Stay vigilant and keep your eyes on the will. The truth always comes out in the end, and we will be here to report it. Team Kids or Team Caryn, the choice is yours, but the evidence speaks for itself.